So, in a world where people are becoming what seems to be the case, what people are seemingly becoming more distracted and possibly going back to unconscious behaviors. I've seen this in the charts. I've seen it in right now. It's this north to south node is in Virgo. Signifies that the tendency is to go back into unconscious behavior. Analyzing things, nitpicking, being pedantic, being anal retentive, that kind of stuff. And it's very chronic stuff, chronic diseases, chronic things, and kind of picking at the little things. But it could also mean that we're going back to little things that are beyond analysis paralysis. Um, but I find that with me, how that's affected me is going into the important things and the details of what works for me. And it's one of those, having Meniere's has taught me that kind of stuff where I realized several years ago that it has helped me to become more conscious and aware of what I put in this body. It helps me to honor this, which actually now coincides with the North Node, collective North Node in Pisces, which means it's just more going into the subconscious, going more into trusting the present moment and kind of just, yeah, just being present and trusting it and more. So it's so that we can transcend the what do you call this? I guess, I don't know, the things we overanalyze, the things that kind of just are too one-sided. Um, so, but it also has helped me literally become conscious about what I put in the body in terms of like sodium, specifically sodium, but also having gout has taught me to also be mindful of how much I put into the body in terms of like if it's high purine. That's also why I became, because you could say I became um, part of it supposedly, or it feels like it's an identity a little bit, becoming vegan. Um, but it's more about what's good for this body. So I noticed that I shifted and all that stuff. But what I find that I noticed that I couldn't find, maybe not yet, in when I was looking things up in terms of like measurement, and I was doing a search on YouTube here. I was looking up like measurement for Meniere's, measurement of sodium per Meniere's. There's nothing. And what I learned was because I keep my measurements between 1200 to 1500 milligrams. And apparently when I did some AI research, I'm using AI now. Um, and they said that that milligram is by weight. But then so I measure things with like a measuring spoon. So I have these measuring spoons. You can't really see it, but it's it's they say it's by weight, and everything, the products that do say, I believe it is, they say according to what they said. I saved the actual transmission or the conversation with AI, that it is the products that show the nutrition information at the back. Those are also by weight, so that's comforting. But it has helped me to become more conscious about that too, in terms of like I bought these like seasoning salt. And then I started realizing, I don't know if it was that or because I went back into colder showers. It's become colder where I am. Right now it's minus 19 degrees Celsius. This morning it was like minus 29 degrees Celsius, which is not even the coldest the city where I live in goes down to. The coldest I've heard was minus 44. Is it minus 40 something? I don't know what it was. This was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I think. Anyways, so going to the cold again, doing the Wim Hof method, um, and, doing the breathing, then going to the cold shower, or rather warm and then cold, because it gets ice cold. The shower gets ice cold, or at least it feels like that at first. So anyways, so because of the house that I live in and the heater turns on, what happens is it opposes the cold. So what I do is part of the Wim Hof method. There's this thing where he goes like this, for those who know what that is. And it kind of creates the balance in the body, which is a good thing. It's a Libra thing. It's a good thing. Um, but I don't know if it was the sodium that has been kind of giving me that feeling of like, I I almost feel like there's about to be a lightheadedness coming through. It's not even dizziness anymore. It's not even that. It's a kind of like pre-onset kind of stuff. But I feel like it's coming in. I'm just like, it feels triggering. It's the body's way of telling me not only to slow down, not only to listen, but literally pay attention to um, how to appreciate even the little things like this, because it's like people have reactions and people have these judgments and criticism against South Node in in Virgo. Um, so this sort of thing where it's like when I tell people this stuff, it's almost like there's a unspoken thing that you want to say that they're not really saying it. But I feel I sense it. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's sort of a criticism that it's like because of not me not directed towards me, but more towards like the situation where they feel it's like, oh, I can't, oh no, I saw this, oh no, kind of thing. But that's not their journey. That's my journey. My journey is to, not to learn about intensity. My journey is to learn about what does that mean? What is intensity in the first place? Because intensity is strong, right? It's a strength thing. It's the degree in which the experience is experienced, but it can be quite intimidating. So the goal is not to be intimidating, but to understand, to work through why there's intimidation in the first place. And what I learned was it's power. It is power. It's power struggles. Um, but there's a gift behind all that powerlessness, and which is to learn to not give over that power to the situation. And that means also includes like when I eat, what I put in my mouth, what I put in this body, in terms of when I cook, it's being mindful of those little things as well. Um, and also the constant practice of being as present as possible with any situation or just in the present, literally like as you walk, as you wake up, as you get up, as I move my hand from here, it's that being present in every second. It can be sort of like a headache for some people. They're like, because people might think being present is all about thinking, and it's like, no, it's nothing to do with that. It's just bringing your attention to what's happening in the moment, no matter what it is. And the attention is that it leads to validation of the situation. It leads to an allowance for it to be what it is without judgment. So that it does, if it's anything, if it's either positive or negative in nature, or it feels like that, then it will pass because there's no attachment to it. So that's the same thing with what I do with when I'm cooking, that even though I'm not attached, I try not to be attached to what I eat or how I cook it and all that stuff. There's still a validation that I process for myself when it comes to the whole like I validate that this body needs what it needs. Even if I had been kind of like a contributor to why I got veneers, why I have gout, and also why I have hypertension, and a bunch of other things. So, um, and that's part of that whole thing. So not only is a gift from having veneers and gout, it's also like this. I don't know. It's beautiful because I wouldn't be conscious. I was talking to a student the other day, and we were talking about how um what changes did you what things do you miss from the past, and how would you? So I told him my side of the story because he asked me in return. I said, what do you miss? And I told him, it's like, oh, I miss having to kind of just being able to eat what I want, or do what I want kind of thing. But that leads to an unconscious behavior, right? It leads to just like habits that are, unhealthy because it's like you just do things like so that means that the same thing, same exact process happens when, let's say, I'm removing a sock or taking off a jacket or putting this here, or putting this on the table, or just, the way I walk or the way I sit and all that stuff. If I'm not conscious in terms of like listening to what the body is wanting, like for example, if I'm just sitting and I'm focused so much on what's next, meaning like the task at hand versus sitting first, well, what tends to happen is that I'm in an awkward position. And so when I'm in an awkward position, that shows me you weren't present when you were sitting. I mean, when you were sitting down, rather. So some things as simple as that, I find is very, very significant because it's a practice. Um, when I say practice, I mean it can be intentional practice, but it's more about your attention. So the intention is, for me, my experience is I'm intending to attend to what I need to attend to in every given second. So that's tied into what I've been learning throughout my life and paying attention to how the body feels. Like usually when it comes to the triggers that I've gone through, the triggers are actually signs for me to pay attention to be like, oh, wait, that's stressful. Oh, wait, that's not good for this body. Because I knew when I was younger that it's like I didn't like being in stressful situations. I just remember kind of just sucking it up and just going with the whole thing and, you know, kind of just like people say going with the flow, but it wasn't really going with the flow. It was resisting what this body was born to be into. So I kind of just went with things. I ate what I was given. I ate what I bought, whatever. So, and I see that a lot. Like when you order stuff, like you go to restaurants. At least back then, when I used to go to restaurants, I would ask them after I got diagnosed with Meniere's. I asked them, "Do you know the sodium content?" And literally, like 90% of the time, they wouldn't know. Especially if it's like a private restaurant or usually the non-corporate restaurants, like private, yeah, right? They don't have that stuff. They just put whatever. So as much as it's fun to see stuff like recipes, even in the vegan side of things, like it looks really good, but those are it's unconscious pleasure. I know that there's pleasure to be had with natural flavors themselves when I'm making a dish. Um, but the tendency is for a lot of humans to still go back into unconscious behavior, going back into, I'm just going to put whatever. And then they learn later in life, there's like, oh, they wonder why they have this, and 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 they have this. They don't want to change. Well, the body will tell you when you're going to actually change because you didn't listen before. But at the same time, that's the experience. Suffering brings that. Suffering is a signal. The moment you experience suffering, well, actually, pain is that, but suffering is optional, right? The Buddha said that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So, what experience you have with pain, which I didn't listen to, like when I first started getting out, I thought it was just like I was stepping on things improperly. I was wearing sandals or flip-flops when I wasn't supposed to, but I was like, and I'm running with it. And I was like, no, it was like gout. So I didn't listen to it. So then now I've been able to listen more. That's a beautiful thing about all these things, right? So just wanted to share this. Um, I don't know, I just felt like there's more to life than what meets the eye for sure, more than what we see or what we have met. What we've experienced in life, what you get online here, anything to do with spiritual stuff, anything to do all that stuff, anything. I feel like there's this is something that hasn't been talked about. Like Meniere's is one of those I find for me is I'm learning that as a gift to come back down to my connection to what I'm here to do. Because it's pleasure is one thing, but is it really joy, which is a difference. So there you go. So something to think about. Okay, so you can say food for thought. So anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later.